Welcome to the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. It is Friday, February 19th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and Jimmy Murphy ready to break down the Friday NHL card. Of course, shorter card as we would expect normally on Fridays. There are 4 games. So we'll take a brief look back at what we saw last night. It was a busier slate in NHL action, some interesting results. The Nashville Predators continue to suck. That was one of the headlines from last night as they lose 3-0 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Best bet winner for me on the show. That was on Alex liked Columbus as well. What else is new for Nashville? I mean, putrid offensively. It says everything about the struggles offensively to put the puck in the net for the Nashville Predators that there are only 2 teams behind them in terms of goals scored in the NHL this year per game: Detroit and Anaheim. That's it. That's where Nashville is, and people have got this preconceived notion in their minds that Nashville will figure it out. Nashville's been in the playoffs, every year pretty much for the last decade. All the great run of success they've had. Those days are gone, in my opinion. I've seen enough now of Nashville at the end of last year, this year so far. This is just not a very good hockey team. I think it's time to admit that. And again, we saw that last night. We know the special teams has been bad. We know the goaltending from Saros and Rinne is just not consistent enough on a night-in, night-out basis. And it's just not a team right now that I'll be looking to back anytime soon, as the Fade Nashville train worked out well again last night. The Leafs and the Senators game provided the only offensive explosion, really, of the entire night. It was the only game to go over the total. It was a very low-scoring, under-trending night of action in the NHL last night. Ottawa-Toronto was not one of those games. The Leafs getting the victory in the battle of the backups with Michael Hutchinson in net, who actually played okay. Gave up one bad goal. I think he should have had the shot that Tim Stützle beat him on. But other than that, I thought he played well. Of course, Ottawa started Marcus Hogberg. He gets injured. Matt Murray had to come in. And Matt Murray's coming off an injury, playing on the second night of back-to-back games. And you could tell it was hindering him big time. He was not at all sharp for the Senators last night. The Leafs lit him up. And Austin Matthews, it's ridiculous now what we're seeing from this guy. 16 goals already this season. If you extrapolate it out, guys, to an 82-game regular season, Austin Matthews is on pace for 70 goals. But of course he's not going to get that because we're not in an 82-game season, only a 56-game season. But he could actually still get 50 goals, believe it or not. He's still got a chance at least to get to 50 goals in a 56-game regular season, which would be absolutely insane. Unbelievable stuff from him right now and the way he's playing. And I'll be honest, Sheldon Keefe's made himself look pretty smart in terms of putting Joe Thornton on the top line with Matthews and Marner, because the chemistry with those 3 guys, it's been impressive to watch. Toronto gets the victory. They got a big one with Montreal coming up. How about the fact that the Flyers lose last night to the Rangers, although the Flyers were very shorthanded, and the Bruins lose last night to the New Jersey Devils, 3-2. 2 teams, like I said on yesterday's show, were they looking ahead maybe to the big trip to Lake Tahoe on the weekend? Maybe not, but nevertheless, they both fall. The Flyers to the Rangers, the Bruins to the Devils, and a little tip of the cap and a golf clap for the New Jersey Devils and what they've done in these 2 games since returning from their COVID shutdown. Beat the Rangers, beat the Bruins, both on the road, both key guys still out like Hischier and Zajac, among others, and they still win. And Mackenzie Blackwood, it's time to start talking about him as the goalie, one of the better goalies right now in terms of current form in the NHL. He's been scintillating for the Devils these 2 games since they've been back, and he was good before the pause as well for them. So kudos to him. He's given them some stabilized goaltending for the Devils in between the pipes. So those are some of my thoughts. Alex, what did you see from last night, and what are some of your takeaways and opinions from last night's action?
Yeah, like I said, that's a big win for New Jersey. I think it's more impressive beating Boston than it was beating the Rangers. Of course, this is a New York team that's been kind of struggling, as of late, obviously. But can't take anything away from the Rangers with their win. And you mentioned the shootout against Philly as well. And like I said, I think the Boston and Philly were probably looking forward, looking ahead a little bit to the game they have Sunday, especially since this is the only lengthy travel they have. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens in that game Sunday, but also what happens in the game right after that for both of those teams. Because, everybody's just been, you look at that East, no one's traveled more than an hour and a half anywhere. And, even though they stayed a couple of days, so for them to have to go cross country and fly back for the first time in well over a calendar year. It's going to be really interesting to see what both of those teams do moving forward. It's just like I said, and Nashville. We kind of called it for the last year and a half now about Nashville. Other experts and other sites would still high on the Predators, thinking they're going to be a good team in the Central. Before the realignment, and even now they thought there'd be kind of a hovering playoff team. But we were the ones that always kind of said this team's trending downward, and now they've really kind of hit I would say rock bottom, but they're getting close to it. And, with some aging top players and some huge contracts, they can't make a lot of moves right now, and they may not be able to make a lot of moves next year when everything gets back to normal from a calendar schedule standpoint. So it's going to be a rough go for them, and it's a team that you can only look to fade or pass with at this point right now.
Yeah, no question. Definitely. There's no doubt there's issues there for sure. Jimmy, we'll bring you in on this, and obviously you'd be the perfect person to talk about what happened to the Boston Bruins last night against the New Jersey Devils, who have stunned the hockey world in these 2 games coming out of their COVID shutdown.
Yeah, guys, it's interesting. I agree with you. Maybe they were looking ahead to Lake Tahoe, and I'm not sure. That's a definite possibility and would make a lot of sense. But what doesn't make sense is the Bruins just seemingly not taking New Jersey seriously from the get-go in that game last night. I mean, I want to say if not for Halak, it could have been a lot worse. I mean, the Bruins were just asleep at the wheel. And for them to be that way against a Devils team that I think besides the Islanders is the second best team they've seen in terms of how tough they played them. I mean, let's not forget those first 2 games of the season. The Devils took one of those games. I think it was in overtime, and the Bruins won one in a shootout or vice versa. But, they were tight, hard-checking, nitty-gritty type games. You weren't getting much room at all, and the Bruins should have known that coming in, and that's exactly how the Devils have played since they've come back, and that's how they played last night. I'll even go further to get specific in terms of a New Jersey Devils player. I don't know, we're not going to get much value on him in a props, but just from a hockey standpoint, PK Subban has completely reinvented himself, guys. I watched him closely last night, and his defensive game is the best I've ever seen it in his career. We know that he's had some down years, and his salary cap hit is kind of hanging over him. But right now, he's saying, look, if I want to survive in this league, I got to reinvent myself. And that's what I think he's doing. And it's fitting in well with the New Jersey Devils. And I would keep riding a lot of unders with that team because they are hard to beat, especially with Blackwood between the pipes.
Yeah, great thoughts about PK Subban, because I've kind of noticed those same things with him. No question about that. He's really, I think he took it to heart. And his comments in the offseason were, I know I have to be better. It was not the year I wanted last year with this New Jersey team. And to his credit, he's really worked on his defensive game, because we always looked at PK's game as one of these puck-moving guys that was a very high-risk type defenseman. He tried to make plays through the neutral zone, even if they were high risk and potentially risk giveaways and turnovers with the puck. And the fact that he's reined that in, he's improved on that. He's taken a more, paying more mind essentially to being better, more responsible with the puck, being in better position in his own zone. I've noticed those same things. And I think the coaching of Lindy Ruff, has a lot to do with that. We're seeing John Hines was the coach of New Jersey for a couple of years there, and they had a sieve defense with him there. And now that Nashville team, he's turned them into a sieve defense as far as I'm concerned. So coaching, I think, has had a lot to do as well with bringing out the better play from PK Subban. I'll take Lindy Ruff any day over John Hines. That's without a doubt. Lindy Ruff's been a 2 or 3 time head coach now in the league, assistant coach with the Rangers for a bit. So I think the coaching's had a lot to do with Subban as well. Plus, he committed to playing better. And New Jersey's a team to watch out for. This is now a few times this year. They've been these big underdog prices, and you've seen it now already. First 2 games back, what were they? About plus 130 against the Rangers. Of course, they were plus 180, plus 190 last night against the Boston Bruins. Big underdog tickets for those of you that have the faith to take the plunge with the New Jersey Devils right now. Definitely a team to keep an eye out for moving forward. All right, guys, let's turn the page to tonight. 4 games on the Friday night NHL card. We start with the Chicago Blackhawks. Alex B. Smith, Don in the jersey. If you're watching us on YouTube, taking on Carolina. We've got Carolina minus 170 to minus 180. home favorites, total 6 shaded to the over. The Chicago Blackhawks going to be disappointed that their set with the Red Wings is over because they've just completely owned Detroit this season. Get another win against them Wednesday night. I'm impressed with Chicago. They just keep on finding ways to win. Of course, they split with Columbus, but overall, this is a team playing solid hockey. They have gotten themselves into contention, believe it or not, in the Central Division. Now, the question is, can it sustain itself for a full 56 games? I know there's a large crowd, Alex, that is just waiting for the other shoe to drop here on this Chicago Blackhawks team. So far, so good for them. I've been impressed with what we've gotten out of Patrick Kane's been excellent. Alex DeBrincat's had a nice bounce-back season so far. Dylan Strome, Pius Suter in that top line for Chicago has been great. And how about the youngster, Philip Kurashev? I think this guy's getting better every game. What a goal he scored the other night against Detroit. Highlight reel stuff from him. All of a sudden, this team, I think, offensively percolating a little bit more. They've done it with defense. They've done it with goaltending, and they've trended under the total a lot. I don't know if that's going to keep up tonight, though, against Carolina. This Carolina team offensively with Aho, Svechnikov, Trocheck, Jordan Staal, of all people, one of the hottest offensive producers and point producers and goal scorers right now in the NHL with what he's done for the Hurricanes in recent games. I think it's going to be a much taller order for Chicago defensively tonight. And as much as they've improved at that end of the ice, you also have to factor in the recent opponents of Chicago. Detroit, Dallas has scuffled offensively for a little bit. Columbus is, hit or miss offensively. They haven't been tested by a really good offensive team. Florida and Tampa, I keep going back to when Chicago played those two teams. And that's when they kind of struggled to keep the puck out of their own net a little bit more. And you got to put Carolina up there as one of the better offensive teams in the NHL with what we've seen. They're scoring 3, 4, 5 goals a night repeatedly. However, on the flip side, I think Chicago can get on the scoreboard tonight. I'm not enamored with Reimer. He's getting worse, not better with every start. Alex Nedeljkovic started against Florida in that loss in overtime, and I thought that was maybe one of his worst games he's had with the Carolina Hurricanes. That one goal cannot go in. I mean, my goodness, the goal that made it 3-2 Florida, that can't go in. It was from a terrible angle right through the wickets of Alex Nedeljkovic. He should have had it. I don't think he had a very good game, so I don't trust whoever's in net as long as Mrazek's still out for Carolina right now. So I'm looking over the total here. It's over 6 minus 115. I think it gets there, and I know the Blackhawks have trended under. They're going to face a major step-up challenge to shut down this Hurricanes team the way they're finding the back of the net right now. So I like the game to go over the total here, the Blackhawks and the Hurricanes. Alex, what do you think here? Chicago, Carolina.
Yeah, the Hawks have been playing great hockey, and I know a lot of people are, trying to discredit them for saying, oh, well, you beat, Detroit 4 times, you're beating Dallas, you're beating, the weaker teams, but you're going to play who's in front of you, especially in a season like this where, it's everybody within the division. So, that's the thing. Good teams win games they're supposed to win. It doesn't matter, whether you fall in the middle of the pack or you're at the top of the division where the Hawks are right now at the moment. And so with that being said, this is a huge step up in class for them. Obviously, they played, to 2 high-scoring affairs at the United Center a while back. And like you said, Carolina's a great offensive team, but the goaltending's been a bit spotty. And I like this over as well, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see what happens. I think we can get a better price in-game for sure, especially because we saw with both of those games before where, it was only 1 goal scored, and then we ended up with 7 goals at the end, and then the other game was just absolutely haywire. It was 2-2 at the end of 20 minutes, and we ended up seeing 10 total goals out of that one. So, but I think we can see maybe 1 goal or maybe no goals at all scored, and then we can get a better price for the over. So that's where I'm circling any game. But I'm staying away from the side mainly because this is supposed to be a back-to-back set. Now tomorrow night's game has been postponed. Carolina's going to now take on Tampa Bay, if I'm not mistaken. That's the last thing I read, to reshuffling things around to try to make up for some games lost previously. So Lincoln's going to start for the Hawks, which means that I'm more tempted to either be on the Hawks or stay away from the game when he's in that, as opposed to Subban. And the fact that they don't have to play now that extra game, they can kind of put a little bit more effort in and not hold back for tomorrow night. They'll be guns blazing trying to keep their spot atop the division. So it's a stay away spot for me on the side, but I'm going to look to play the total in game.
All right, looking at a potential in-game over for Alex in that one. Jimmy, what do you think here with Chicago, Carolina?
Yeah, guys, this game's kind of confusing for me. I don't really have a good grasp on it. I mean, part of me thinks I was kind of actually leaning towards the under, and I think you made some great points on the over there. Maybe talk me up. But I'll tell you, I just was wondering, maybe Carolina comes back and really tightens it up, considering what happened in the last game with Florida. They got really sloppy in their own end and kind of loosey-goosey. So I think maybe they come back a little more focused. And then, Chicago, they can go both ways. I mean, I'm with you guys. I don't think they're getting enough credit. They can play a low-scoring tight game, and they can play a high-scoring game as well. So I'm going to pass. If I was to do something, I would actually lean on the under.
All right, lean to the under for Jimmy with the Blackhawks and the Hurricanes. But, as far as the side is concerned, I'm not stepping in front of Carolina in this spot. They've been perfect off a loss this year. And, of course, they're coming off the loss to Florida. They've been great at home. That was only their first home loss of the season, that overtime defeat against Florida a couple of days.
I think Ian froze. I don't know if Ian can hear me. Yeah. All right. So Ian froze. So we'll just move on to the next game. Yeah, Jimmy. Jump in. We're just talking about the Florida and Detroit game. And we kind of talked about these teams already because they played against Carolina and Chicago respectively. And you look at what Florida did. They were down 2-0 quick. And I talked about it with Ian off air about how Florida and Carolina, that game on Wednesday was a 5 o'clock local start, which is a bit of an odd time for a weekday game. And I think that kind of reflected how the game started. Both teams were skating really slow, weren't doing much, and then all of a sudden, Florida, goes down 2 goals. Carolina jumps out to it quickly. They get 2 goals in 22 seconds, and then Florida wakes up in the second period, eventually gets the lead back. It goes 3-3, and then they win it in overtime, 4-3. This is a Florida team that they're playing really good. And there are a lot of people saying the same thing about Florida, the same about the Hawks. That this is a team no one expected to kind of be up toward the top of the division right now. Obviously, they didn't expect them to be at the bottom, to kind of be a middle of the road team, but they're playing some good hockey. They've got some solid offense that comes in spurts and waves. The goaltending's been really good. Chris Drager, I think he's really surprised me as far as backup goal is concerned. I think he's one of the better backups now, based on some of the efforts we've seen. He's not going to be a guy who threatens to take over Bobrovsky's job, obviously, but he's definitely going to be someone that you can run. He's not auto fade material as far as betting is concerned. I wouldn't be scared to play on Florida when he's in net now. And on the flip side, Detroit is just absolutely horrendous offensively. So you wonder with this game, can't really look at the total because of these contrasting styles. Detroit would, obviously rather play a 2-1 game, where Florida would like to, be a little bit more up tempo, a little bit higher pace. I think if any team's going to score here, it would be Florida. So I'm looking at Florida, the team total over 3.5. You can get it at a really good price of plus 115. I think they'll be able to find the back of the net more often than Detroit, which obviously would lean to them winning the hockey game. But this price is a little bit high, even with a regulation play. I'm going to stay away from the side, just run with the team total. Jimmy, what do you like in this game between Florida and Detroit?
I'll tell you, Alex, I love the way Florida's been playing. And like I said, I think it was 2 days ago. Look, they're for real. And no doubt, I give them a lot of credit. They got off to a kind of even before the season started, it was very tumultuous with the whole Yandel situation and COVID. And, I give them a lot of credit for bouncing back from that and having the start to the season they've had. That being said, after the wins they've had in the last couple games, and how emotional and roller coaster those games were, this to me reeks of a letdown. This just seems like one of those spots, and Detroit sometimes is tough at home on those Friday night games at home in Detroit. They've historically played better on those nights. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I'm a Red Wings fan, and I can tell you that was one of the few guaranteed wins. You could always think of Detroit being an underdog and stealing a game at home on a Friday night over the past 10 years, 15 years or so. So I like the Wings in this. I'm going to take the dog. Give me the Wings straight up in this game.
Okay, yeah, you can get the Wings. You can get the Wings around plus 150, plus 155 in that spot. That's a good spot. Also, history is not on your side with this one. They have lost 9 of the last 10 meetings against Florida, but and that goes back to them being and they were in the same division for a while too. So it's not just something that you see as kind of just a 2-game set every year. So but like you said, yeah, I would not be shocked to see if Detroit, if they can get their offense going early in this game, they can hang around and possibly pull an upset. But if that's the thing, you gotta, they're in that spot now where we talked about with a couple of teams, kind of like Anaheim, where they're gonna have to rely on playing so much tighter defensively. Where if they don't get the offense rolling, the next thing you know, okay, they give up a goal. Well, now they gotta play even tighter at the back end, and they don't take enough chances, and now they're down 2-0, they're down 2-1, 3-1. So they put themselves into a tough spot by not having a solid enough offense. So it all depends on what Florida's defense and goaltending really does. If they can shut things down, then it might be a tough night for Detroit, even at home. And like you mentioned, they do play well. We talk about scheduling spots throughout the year. Detroit at home on a Friday has historically been a really good spot. It's like I talk about fading Chicago at home on a Sunday evening. Those things kind of really do play out over time over the years. And so that is a good note you mentioned. So, Detroit at home as an underdog on a Friday, that is usually historically a good scheduling spot.
All right, looks like I'm back, guys. Sorry about that. No, you're talking about Florida and Detroit. How about Florida's road mark here? 5-0-1 on the road this year for the Florida Panthers. Obviously, they're playing great hockey. I'm on Florida in regulation tonight, -115 for a smaller bet. It's not as strong an opinion as some of the other plays tonight. I worry a little about the spot for Florida. You just played Tampa 3 times in a row. You just played a barn burner with Carolina, overtime in the last game. I'm worried this is that flat spot potentially, but at the same point in time, is Detroit going to be good enough to, take advantage of it? I'm not all that sure. I'm not all that confident in that. So I'm on Florida here in regulation, -115. Alex, what did you say you were on here?
I'm on the Florida team total over 3.5 at +115.
All right, that makes sense too. I mean, Florida's just scoring goals left and right. Jonathan Huberdeau is highlight reel material every night right now for the Panthers. He's been awesome for them. Look, he's always been a great player. He's taken it to another level. He's now playing at a level I haven't seen out of him. He's always been really good. He is one of the best players in the NHL right now. That is how he's playing for this Panthers team. Again, Chris Drieger continues to be outstanding in net, believe it or not, for the solid at least. And you got to wonder now, Joe Quenneville hasn't been overly reluctant to just hand the job, the number one role, to Sergei Bobrovsky this year. And so it's pretty phenomenal to see this little goaltending situation unfold the way it has so far in Florida. But their defensive plays improved. There's definitely a lot to like with this Panthers team. There is no question. Jimmy, what do you think here? Panthers and Red Wings.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear me, and going a little in and out, but if you can, I took the Red Wings to win.
All right, big. You know what? The spot's a little tricky for Florida. So if you believe in that, and I think Jimmy does, that's what you're banking on here for the Red Wings against Detroit. So liking them at +155, +160 even in some spots with the Red Wings. We move on to could be the game of the night. Edmonton Oilers, Calgary Flames, Battle of Alberta. If it's anything like the first meeting where it was 6-4 Calgary, it wasn't quite as rough that game as we thought, but there were still some scrums, still some almost fights in that game. And you're always going to have the chance for those kind of fireworks when these two teams meet. We've got Calgary -105, -110, total 6.5, shaded to the under. I've had a good read this week on Edmonton. I bet against them with Winnipeg in the first game between the Jets and the Oilers this week. Jets won that game 6-5. Came back and bet on the Oilers in the second game against Winnipeg. And of course, they won that game 3-2 the other night. So had a nice little run, when to bet on, when to bet against the Oilers. And I'm going to be going against them here tonight with Calgary at -110 here in this game. Jeff Ward was pissed off after that last game against Vancouver. 5-1 loss to the Canucks. They were terrible with the puck. They just broke down, made bad plays, were too soft in coverage defensively. It was a bad game, and Jeff Ward was just critical of their lack of effort, lack of work ethic, lack of compete, all of that stuff. He says, we have to start giving a shit about what we're doing. It was his exact quote after that game against Vancouver. So it was a bit pretty it really hasn't gone public with, excoriating his team very much since he's been the head coach of the Flames, but he did that after the 5-1 loss to the Canucks the other night. I would expect a much better effort from Calgary. Maybe they're, but the part of me that's having trouble, even though I'm on Calgary, is that there's no doubt Edmonton's in better form right now. They've played pretty good hockey. They played pretty well on the road as well. They've been able to get wins. Remember, they shut out Montreal on the road in the end of that road trip. Mike Smith's been solid. He had a bad game against Winnipeg when that 6-5 loss on Monday, but he bounced back, played a lot better the other night. He's definitely been good in between the pipes. But I just think Calgary, after they didn't play well at all in most of those games against Vancouver. Even the victories, they were fortunate to win the first game in Vancouver against the Canucks. They got badly outplayed. Jacob Markstrom stole the game. They got badly outplayed in the Saturday game. They lost that one. They did win the last game in Vancouver, the third one. Very fortunate, because you could say Vancouver was as good, if not better. And then, of course, they get just crushed by the Canucks in the fourth and final game between those two teams in Calgary the other night, 5-1. So their recent form has definitely been trending downward. I think coach gave them a wake-up call after the last game, and you'll see a much more spirited Calgary team tonight. I just think from a situation and a spot perspective, Calgary is a side that I'm looking to get on here tonight. So for me, I'm going to go with them -110. As far as the total goes, I can't bet anything but over here for a very easy reason. We saw 6-4 in the first meeting. It's going to be rough. It's going to potentially get nasty. There's going to be potentially a parade to the penalty box. And you've got two teams on the power play that can make you pay for taking penalties, especially Edmonton, whose power play is in really good form right now. That's what concerns me about the under in this game. I understand it's 6.5. It's a high total, but I just worry that the physicality and the nastiness ramps up as I expect it could between these two teams. You're going to see a lot of penalties, a lot of power plays, and obviously that is not good if you're going to be betting an under. So I would only look over the total, honestly. I don't love it, but I would only look in that direction. Alex, what do you think here? Battle of Alberta. I'm looking forward to it. Oilers Flames.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. The first one was an absolute beauty of a game to watch, and I think it's going to be kind of the same thing. And if you're in-game betting, if you're a novice in-game bettor, this is going to be a tough one to kind of go back and forth with. This is kind of an advanced level game, especially with the 6-4. I was able to cash 3 of those next to score props, but it wasn't easy because it wasn't just completely back and forth. You had some lapses at times where Calgary was dominating the pace of play, and then Edmonton kind of took over. Then there were times where Edmonton scored a goal where Calgary had a power play. They looked like they were primed to score. They make one turnover, and the next thing Edmonton scores. So this is definitely going to be a harder game to look at from an in-play perspective. I might jump on the over as soon as the game starts. Like I said, that 6.5, you can catch a 6 quickly if it goes scoreless after that 15-minute break timeout. So that's something I might be looking at, but like I said, can't look at an under. And I worry about Calgary's form. They won 10 of the last 13 against Edmonton, but their form as of late it hasn't really shown that too much. So I'm going to stay away from the side altogether and just look for stuff in game.
Maybe they're not good. I still think this is a decent Calgary team, but could be a good Calgary team. If they are, this has to be their spot to step up and maybe win. At least play really, really well. I expect that from them tonight. Play really, really well. Will it be enough to win? Of course, you never fully know that. But I do expect if there's an A game or an A effort from this team, if they're capable of it, you would think tonight's the night, because when Ward says something like this, it's time to take charge and take control of what we can. We certainly can control the way we start. We certainly can control how we pay attention to details, how hard we compete, all of that within our control. It's time for us to start giving a shit about it. That's exactly what he said after the 5-1 loss to Vancouver. So he's trying to wake them up, and we'll see if they do. I don't argue. Edmonton's in better form. If you believe in better form, and the eye test tells you the Oilers are playing flat out better right now, but the eye test doesn't always work. And I just think Calgary tonight, after hearing their coach lace into them the way he did, I think it's a spot where it's a wake-up call. And look, they're looking up at Edmonton now in the standings. So this is an important game for them tonight, hosting this Oilers team. Jimmy, what's your thoughts? Where do you stand with this one, Oilers and Flames?
Yeah, I'm with you on the over, Ian. I think, like you said, the last game we didn't really have that rough stuff, but I think it's due. I think it's coming. And I think we might even be coming up on the anniversary of that crazy, insane game last year when they had the goalie fight with the Flames and the Oilers. So I think we're in for old school hockey tonight, and I like the over. an old Smythe division feel, so to speak. So give me that over.
All right, I can't argue with that. I mean, like I said, I would be scared betting this game under the total. If we get penalties and we get a parade to the box, which is always possible with these two teams, that's not good for the under. By the way, the last game that the Oilers won 3-2 against Winnipeg, Connor McDavid, congrats, 500 points in his NHL career, and he got to 500 points in his 369th game, the exact same game of Sidney Crosby's career, in which he also got to 500 points. So pretty amazing, because these two guys are going to get compared to one another when it's all said and done. These transcendent NHL superstars, McDavid and Crosby. Obviously Crosby entered the league in 2004, McDavid in 16, I believe it was. And now all of a sudden, there's going to be, when everybody goes back in the history books and they compare the greatest of all time in the NHL, Gretzky and, Crosby and McDavid, they're going to get compared in that regard. So it's going to be interesting to see because, that's why they bring it up, that McDavid got to 500 in game 369, just like Crosby did, because, everybody just can't wait when these two guys are retired and do all that long ballyhoo discussion about who has the better career when it's all said and done, because it's going to happen. Oh, can't hear Alex. Alex is talking here. I can't hear him.
Yeah, sorry. I see. Yeah, Connor McDavid's got a long way to go as far as reaching Crosby, in my opinion. I mean, talent-wise, yes, he's on that level. There's no question about that.
Where's the cups? Where's the team?
The resume, where the playoff series wins. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not even get into conference finals and cups. Yeah. So, that's unfortunate for him. And like I said, we talk about it with this Edmonton team going back and forth. At some point he might have to, we talk about, if you want to compare him to Gretzky, he's going to have to make that kind of Gretzky move at some point and leave Edmonton. And obviously not on the same terms because Gretzky was winning in Edmonton, but he's going to have to make that painful move, in my opinion, for him to be compared to one of the greats, to match, for his credentials, to match his talent. He won't be able to do that in Edmonton his whole career. He's going to have to leave at some point and go to a winning organization, an organization that can actually build around him, as opposed to just making him the centerpiece and not adding any side pieces to that. So, I know a lot of people want to make that comparison. And I thought about this recently. It was funny you mentioned that, Ian, because with Sidney Crosby, having the 3 cups and, talk about, he has a lot of injury issues, a lot of different things, but Crosby really is on that pace to be, when it's all said and done, one of those top 50 players in the league. And the way he makes everybody around him better, that's a big thing. McDavid doesn't really do that. McDavid's had a ton of different line mates and a ton of different pieces over the years. And other than Leon Draisaitl, who else has really made a super, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who else has he really made a household name or superstar around him in his time in Edmonton?
All valid points. And Alex, maybe a little prognostication and foreshadowing to the future that maybe Connor McDavid is going to have his Wayne Gretzky trade moment where we'll see him there sitting in a press conference. I told Leon and Nuge I wasn't going to do this.
Yeah, guys, it's funny you say that. Yesterday, I heard Pierre Maguire is talking on Montreal on TSN 690, and he said that Ken Holland has the green light to go absolutely AWOL at the NHL trade deadline, and that he's going to do everything in his power to add a really big player to get Connor that first playoff win. Because, Pierre said after that series last year when they lost to Chicago, after everyone else left, and just had his head down the whole time. So I think you're right, Alex. I think you're onto something there. I think it's getting close to that point, and they're going to have to really step up if they want to keep him. And, you said something about making people better around you. It's almost like, I don't know, I'm going to show my age here, guys, but Connor McDavid's basically on the path that Dan Marino was on with the Miami Dolphins. That's the way I see it. Yep. And look, Marino did make a couple Super Bowls, but he never could win those big ones. He was amazing talent, great statistically, and it's sad and unfair that's how people judge it. But when it comes down to it, you're judged by championships when you're a star like that. And right now, Connor's doesn't even have a playoff win. Oh, he does from the first year. Yeah, my bad. But no, he hasn't had one since 2017, right? So they got to win a playoff round for him, and he's gone.
To Jimmy's point, if you keep all the statistics and the the years that he played in the NBA intact. You don't adjust anything in terms of his on-court stats, but you take away all 6 of those NBA titles. Do we look at Michael Jordan in the same, breath as, greatest of all time and incredible?
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. And that's to your point.
Yeah.
You got to have some success. You got to have some championships here.
Yeah.
Simple as
But
that.
even I guess and that's the thing when you start talking about guys with no championships compared to guys with championships, because there's really not that kind of a heavy list in the NHL as opposed to in the NFL or the NBA. Most guys have at least one championship to their name. At some point, even you look at Ray Bourque, all the years he spent in Boston. I mean, he was a Hall of Famer if he'd never made it to another Cup final or won a cup. But the fact that he won, it really cemented that legacy. Even a guy who was kind of middle of the range like Dave Andreychuk, when he finally won in Tampa after all those years, but he was a guy whose numbers stood the test. So that's the thing with McDavid now. He's gonna have it's gonna have to be about winning for him. I know he's a team player. He's one of those guys, but he's gonna have to go somewhere where they emphasize winning. In a big sense, and Edmonton's just not that place. And even if they make a run now, even if they make a run and win a series now, but if they get, let's say they win the first, that division semifinal, and then they get swept in the division final, that still would probably loom just as badly as losing one series, because all the work that he's done, he's carried that franchise on his back, and still they haven't given him enough. That might be the breaking point for him still.
Guys, how many years did Jordan go before he won a title? Was it 5, 6?
From 84 to 91. So
7.
So even more.
7. Mm-hmm.
7. Okay, so doesn't this remind you? Like, I remember those Jordan teams before they were winning titles, and they were just never. They were there, but they were never good enough when it counted.
Well, they could never beat Detroit at the beginning.
Right.
They could never beat Detroit. They lost to the Celtics. Remember that game?
Yep.
I was at that game when he had, what did he have, 63 points against the Celtics in a playoff game in the first round? It was insane. But, they just do it. So finally, their management, their ownership said, all right, we got to surround this guy with stars. And they bring in Pippen, they bring in Rodman. They get all these other guys. And that's Ken Holland's got to do that. That's why he was brought in there, because he's one of the best GMs in the history of hockey. So if there's a guy that can do it, it's him. But I just don't know with the salary cap how much you can do what the Bulls did then to surround Jordan. I don't know if it's possible.
Let's just say this, and I've drawn the parallels here to Jordan by bringing it up. You take away the 6 titles, but you leave the stats in place. What's then the legacy of Michael Jordan? It's a little bit different than the way we view him now. Obviously, it would be. And again, 7 years until he won his first title. Now this is 5 years now for McDavid. You know what's going to be freaky about the parallels to Jordan? If Edmonton Oilers are 2023 Stanley Cup champions, 7 years into McDavid's career, they win that first. Then it's going to be really, really eerie to see the parallel between MJ and McDavid. But that's a big if. Can you see the Oilers getting their shit together in 2 years and winning a cup? I don't know. It's dicey.
And the one thing is too that at least the Bulls, they were going to the conference final year after year after year. Like I said, they just couldn't get past the Detroit Pistons. Edmonton's not one of those teams where we see, they're not like a San Jose where we saw them through the 2000s make it all the way to the conference final and then fall out. Or even the years where the Hawks, there's a couple of extra titles they could have had this last decade if not losing to the conference final. So that's the thing. And like I said, it's even the lack of playoff history for him. Aside from a few big games, and he was great in that series against Chicago. It was just the rest of the team that couldn't pick up the slack last year in the bubble. So, like I said, it's a rough spot. I just don't see it happening for him in Edmonton.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Edmonton goes and what they can surround McDavid with. Because again, we've seen this so many times with this group. It's just too much McDavid and Draisaitl, and a little bit from Nugent Hopkins when he's on a roll, but he's very streaky. And then outside of that, it's feast or famine. And you need more than 3 forwards if you're going to win a Stanley Cup. Next up, final game, Winnipeg-Vancouver, another North Division matchup here. We've got Vancouver minus 115 home favorites. The total 6 shaded to the over in this game. The Jets coming off the 3-2 loss to Edmonton. Vancouver played really well in every game against Calgary, even though they lost a couple of them. They're playing better. There's no question. Defensively, it's been a little bit better from them. They beat Calgary pretty good, 5-1 in that last game. against the Flames was one of their better games this year. Vancouver's playing well right now. Can it keep going here against Winnipeg? Winnipeg lost earlier this season to Vancouver at home. So it's a little bit of a redemption situation and spot here for the Jets going into this game. They're very good off a loss. They've only lost 2 games in a row, the Jets, once this year. I kind of like the Jets a little bit. I understand Vancouver's played a little bit better, but you're getting even money here with both of these teams, and you got Winnipeg coming off the loss. I do lean a little to the Jets. I like them. I like the over even a little bit more in this game than the side. The Jets are one of those teams when they're off a loss, particularly one where they get held to 2 goals or less. Long term, they've been a good bounce back team scoring wise into the over. I'd expect Scheifele, Wheeler, Connor, and company to really bounce back offensively tonight in this game and play a little bit better. And again, Vancouver, kudos to them. They haven't kept teams to 1 goal very often, but Calgary, I think, got them on a night where they like Jeff Ward said, we just talked about it, they weren't bringing their work ethic. They didn't really play to their greatest capabilities. I think you'll get that from Winnipeg tonight after losing to Edmonton the other night. They've been very good at nipping losing streaks in the bud, this Jets team. So I like Winnipeg. I like the over even more than that, over 6 minus 120 in this game. Alex, what's your thoughts here with the Jets and the Canucks?
Yeah, I lean with Edmonton. I'm sorry, when talking about Edmonton earlier, I lean with Winnipeg here in this spot. Except the way they played against Edmonton, that was a solid back and forth game. Vancouver, and I was really high on them the last year and a half, last 2 years, but even with them getting that big win against Calgary, you just wonder, can they string it together now? Can they put together 2, 3, 4 wins? That remains to be seen, and they haven't done well against Winnipeg in the last recent history. They've lost 11 of the last 12, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a spot where I think Winnipeg can really kind of put the pressure on them. They're a much more physical team. They're a much bigger team than Vancouver, and I think that this is that time of year now. As we get toward the halfway point, those little intangibles start to matter and mean a lot, especially in this condensed portion of the schedule. So it's just a lean with Winnipeg at the price. I don't like it that much. As someone mentioned in the chat room, there's a lot of games tomorrow. There's more that I like tomorrow than I do tonight in the short card. So I'm just going to kind of keep it simple, and I'm just going to pass this one, but just lean with Winnipeg.
All right, just a lean to Winnipeg for Alex B. Smith in that one with the Jets and the Canucks. Yeah, the Jets have owned the Canucks head-to-head until the last meeting, and the only meeting this year between these two teams. Vancouver went into Winnipeg and won that game, and that was in the midst of the Canucks, when they were struggling, and I think they just dug in and they played one of their best games and best defensive games clearly of the season in that win against Winnipeg earlier this year. But I think the shoe's on the other foot now. Jets know they lost the previous meeting to the Canucks. I think you'll get a chance to see them bounce back here. Jimmy, what do you think here with the Jets and the Canucks?
Yeah, guys, I'm going to go with the under in this game. I don't know why. I got a gut feeling we're going to get a little goalie duel going on here. So give me the under for this.
All right, like an under 6 plus 100. Holtby was very good against Calgary the other night. You would think that Travis Green's probably going to come right back with him. We'll see if that's the case here as they face Winnipeg tonight. All right, that is the Friday NHL card. Before we get to best bets, we want to remind you that to sign up, download, I should say first, the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Sign up for an account. Use the promo code THPN, the Hockey Podcast Network, to get exclusive deals with your DraftKings betting account. Take advantage of it. You'll get special exclusive deals by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app, signing up for an account on the app, and using the promo code THPN. All right, best bets for this Friday NHL card. Let's go around the horn and see if we can keep it going. It was a good night pretty much for it's been good for best bets this week overall, so hopefully we can keep it going. Alex, what do you think your best bet for Friday night?
Yeah, I got one play and one play only. That's the Florida Panthers team total over 3.5 plus 115. Like I said, they score early, they can really turn the afterburners on and blow out this Detroit team. Detroit's going to have to try to slow things down early in order to have a chance, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. I think Florida, they should be able to get at least 4 goals here against what's been a struggling Red Wing team. So Panthers team total over is my best bet.
All right, Florida Panthers team total over 3.5 plus 115. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. Jimmy, what have you got best bet tonight?
You know what, guys? No best bet for me. I'm just not a big fan of this card, so I'll leave it as is.
All right, there we go. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. All right, best bet for me on this Friday NHL card. I'm going to go to. I'm thinking. I'm going to do Calgary. Even against the flow of Edmonton's current form right now, I just get that sense after the tirade. He didn't like scream and yell, but he was pretty adamant, Jeff Ward, that not good enough, not acceptable. The performance the other night against Vancouver. And it's important for Calgary to start banking some points on home ice, especially against teams that they're behind in the standings. I think Calgary brings their A game tonight, and hopefully that gets them the W. I'm on Calgary minus 110 against Edmonton. That'll be my best bet for this Friday card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys for Friday, February 18th. Make sure you join us tomorrow. Live on YouTube, we'll be on the air at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Pacific. Breaking down the Saturday card, we'll look ahead to that Lake Tahoe showdown between the Golden Knights and the Avalanche, the first of the two games between in Lake Tahoe this weekend. If you've seen the images, man, it looks like a beautiful, gorgeous, picturesque setting for these two hockey games this weekend at Lake Tahoe. I mean, it's stunning imagery coming from the rink where they put that rink in Lake Tahoe with the snow and the mountains in the background, the beautiful skyline. Unbelievable. Like I just soak that kind of shit up. I just do. I love it because I'm usually someone that'll go to a cottage in the wintertime once and as well multiple times during the summer. And if I can get that great scenery, I just enjoy it immensely. So seeing those images coming from Lake Tahoe was pretty cool to see that. Looking forward to breaking down that game tomorrow, as well as the entire Saturday card. We have a ton of games tomorrow when you look at it. I'm going down the list. We've got 12 games on the NHL slate tomorrow. So it is a loaded Saturday card. Make sure you join us live on YouTube at noon Eastern on Saturday. And if you can't join us live, make sure you download and listen to the podcast version of the Ice Guys, available on all major podcast providers. For Alex B. Smith, for Jimmy Murphy, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on Saturday for another edition of the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.